These words have significant meaning. So if you could please place your hand over your heart and repeat with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And with that, I just, instead of, a prayer, just again want to remind everybody, this will be our last meeting before our municipal election. And a lot of folks don't think that the municipal election matters. It does matter. This is everybody's opportunity to really have a say in their local government. And I think as time goes on, we've seen a lot of stuff in the news about election tampering and things like that, whether you believe that somebody is doing it. The problem we have is that life is getting more complicated with electronic media. And I really believe that democracy is threatened if we do not take our obligation seriously as citizens of the greatest democracy in the history of mankind to go out and do that little thing and vote. And as proud as I am of Sierra Madre, I am disappointed that our percentage of our registered voters hovers around 30–40% at times. I really would like to see everybody in this town exercise that fundamental responsibility and go out and vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Capocha. With that, I'll move into the next item for approval of the agenda.
I move that we approve.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And that motion carries unanimously. Next item is the approval of the meeting minutes.
Well, I just want to say I'm pretty impressed.
Yeah.
Ditto.
Took the words right out of my mouth.
Yeah, very good.
Very nice job.
And thank you, Madam City Clerk, your first time out. It was very detailed and very thorough, so I just want to thank you for that.
Thank you.
Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And that also passes unanimously. Next item we have on the agenda is Mayor and City Council reports. Who would like to begin?
I can go ahead and start. I would like to thank everybody who showed up on Saturday at the Hart Park for our State of the City. Mayor Arizmendi did a wonderful job explaining the state of our city, and we had 3 lovely musicians who came and entertained us, and I was just overwhelmed with their talent. So thank you all for coming out.
And thank you for your emceeing.
Yes, I wanted to add my voice of kudos to our mayor. She did a beautiful job at the State of the City. Also got to attend the Wisteria Festival, and 3 of my colleagues were there, and that kind of added to the enjoyment. It was a great day. Fortunately, we didn't get rained on, and was well attended. So kudos to the Chamber of Commerce and all the volunteers and our city staff for making that happen once again this year.
Yeah, I'll just add that the State of the City was really well done by our mayor, and it was well attended as well. And the tape should be on soon, I think, on TV. So I think everyone would be well informed by watching it. Two items. One is the Clean Power Alliance, which is the community choice energy coalition that we're a part of, is currently making its way towards trying to launch for both residents and commercial and industrial ratepayers here in Sierra Madre. The current timeline looks like here in Sierra Madre we probably won't see any change until early 2019. The first batch of ratepayers was non-incorporated county commercial accounts. They are going live. I think they've already gone live, or they're going live momentarily. And then the second batch will be the city's South Pasadena, West Hollywood, and Rolling Hills Estates. James is giving me the nod. And they'll go sometime in late 2018. And then early 2019 will be most residential accounts from most of the other cities, 21 other cities. So we'll keep you posted on the timeline, but as of now, we probably won't see anything affecting Sierra Madre until 2019. Update from Metro. Metro is going to be holding a telephone town hall meeting, and this is basically an opportunity for anyone to call in to give them thoughts on the budget. They're going to be focusing on the budget and the next-gen bus restructure study, which is essentially Metro is trying to redefine and maybe rescope just how bus services are delivered. And I think anyone who looks at buses traveling in and out of this city or most cities, you see a lot of empty buses. You see a lot of buses at different times that don't have a lot of ridership, and you see a lot of buses that no one would really want to ride on, frankly. Buses that aren't really 21st century. So Metro is making a push over these next couple years to actually making bus ridership more of a priority. So the town halls will be next Wednesday and Thursday, April 4th and 5th, from 6:30 to 7:30. And again, it's a telephone town hall, so the number is 888-400-1932. And you can call in and you can ask questions and get answers and talk to Metro staff. So that's all I have.
Can we put that on our website?
Yeah, that's a great idea, if we could.
We can put it.
Great.
Thank you, Councilmember Harabedian.
Okay, I only want to report out that several council members attended the R.T. Rogers grand opening here on Montecito Street. And
No Brown Act was violated.
Yeah, I know.
Councilmember Harabedian
I
could
was
make it, yeah.
single dad that day,
Oh,
so
yeah.
my son doesn't drink beer yet.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. Great fun, and just, again, it's really a cool business to have in Sierra Madre, so I encourage you all to give them your patronage and try them out. They're on Montecito Street, so that's it for me.
Nothing else you want to report on
yeah,
today?
yeah.
Maybe?
Okay. I did, the Kiwanis and League of Women Voters conducted a forum to discuss Measure D today. And I was so excited because I was the person that was going to argue the no on D. And unfortunately, nobody showed up to argue yes on D, in spite of the fact that Mike Alexander, who is the president of the, California
California tax
limitation, said publicly on his radio show that he would send somebody, and about 10 minutes before the meeting, Susan Henderson got a text from his staff saying that nobody will be coming, that Mr. Alexander decided it would not be a good idea. So I felt really bad for the League of Women Voters, who had 3 people to moderate the discussion, and for the good Kiwanis people that showed up to hear the arguments for and against. So the League did the best job that they could to argue both sides, and then they turned the microphone over to me, and I got to say what I thought. And I don't think I need to go on what I think about it, but so I'll leave it at that.
Well, thank you for representing.
Absolutely.
Yes,
pleasure.
thank you, Councilmember Capocha, for representing us. But I'm sure if any of you have any questions, Councilmember is chomping at the bit to share his pieces of information, and he'll be happy to argue with anyone who would like to call him. So thank you again for representing us. It sounds like everything I was going to report in has already been shared, but I do want to encourage those that did not attend the State of the City, just to find out where we really are at this point and our upcoming opportunities and challenges, to take a look at the video once it's uploaded. I also want to recognize our Madam City Clerk, who was in attendance. I know we didn't get to recognize her there, and thank you for your attendance there, Madam City Clerk. And great turnout at the Wisteria. I heard, and I didn't go up to the vine, but I understand that it was not blooming at full capacity. But thank you to those that volunteered and all of the organizations that volunteered. And I know also Huck Finn was this last Saturday, and I saw some great pictures on Facebook of big fish. And hopefully all the families, I know the fathers tend to get a little competitive out there from what I understand, but that the kids also had a really good time. The last thing I want to do, it looks like I should be announcing this since it was slipped on the dais here today, but we have the chili cook-off for the Kiwanis Club coming up on, it looks like, where's the date here? Well, I see a May 3rd for when it needs to be submitted. I do know that when our city manager first moved into town, he even entered his chili. How did you come? Did you place it all, Mr.
Best
City
city hall chef.
Were you the only city hall chef?
Did you make that up?
So Chris Semino came in first, James Carlson came in second, so the biggest award was the best city hall chef, very clearly.
Wow.
As I came on top.
And I apologize, I don't have more information on that, but you are all more than welcome to contact Kiwanis to find out more information. Okay.
It's May 12th, Mayor.
May 12th.
May 12th, thank you very much. Okay, so we'll move on to the next item on our agenda, which is public comment. If anyone would like to comment on any item that is not on the agenda, please come up to the podium, state your name, and you have 3 minutes.
Good evening, council members. My name is Michael Paris. I live at 465 East Laurel Avenue in Sierra Madre. So this is my 22nd year in the city and 20 years as a homeowner. And I've seen a lot of different politics and hot button items come through over the years. And I'm really happy and pleased to say that this has been the wisest and finest city council and staff, in my humble opinion, in the 22 years I've been here. I'm just so pleased and thrilled about the balance, the common sense, the wise decisions that have been made by this council. And also I want to thank John for bringing up how important it is to participate in the American system, that our forefathers fought so we could have these freedoms. And I would really hope that we have the largest turnout for this election. This election really is about what type of environment and city do we want to have here. There have been hard-fought battles to protect our city as a really great small-town village environment. And it's important to consider why you moved here and what is the reason behind it. It could easily be damaged without the type of protections and zoning laws that have been upgraded and helped by this council. And I'm just so thrilled to see that happen. My personal opinion is that Measure D needs to go down in flames. This is just absolutely unacceptable. There is no point in favor of Measure D. As John mentioned, they wouldn't even show up because they have nothing to say about it. And the statement I just made is coming from an extremely conservative person who normally would be on the other side of tax issues. This is what taxes need to be used for. They need to be used and spent properly. And in this situation, this money is important to protect our city. With that said, I'm very pleased to have some yard signs in my yard. Denise Stelmar, prominent in my front yard. Rachel, prominent in my front yard. And in the middle, between both of them, or in the middle there, is Jean. And I would hope that the citizens of Sierra Madre will seriously consider keeping this group intact because of their great wisdom and leadership. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'd like to ask Mr. Harris if he has a Measure D sign in his yard, a no on Measure D sign.
We don't have that many fools in town that would vote yes.
But you don't have a sign?
I don't think you have to worry about it.
No, we want to,
If you'd like to bring one over, I'll put it right
Thank
there.
you. I will do it.
And by the way, I wasn't dressed like this for work. I was at home playing my Telecaster through my Fender 50s tweed amp as loud as possible. And romantic, oh my goodness, the council meeting. I dressed nice tonight to honor all of you, and I want you to know that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Paris, I'm sorry. Mr. Paris? Oh, I'm sorry, just for the record, can you spell your last name?
It's like the city in France.
Just want to be sure, because there's other ways to spell. Thank you. Okay.
E-A-R-I-S.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Thank you. If anyone else would like to speak on an item not on the agenda, please come forward.
Hi there. Dana Pelsone. It's P-E-L-S-O-N-E. Address is 144 South Hermosa Avenue. I've lived in Sierra Madre most of my life and at my current address on South Hermosa for the last 16 years. And I've been before, not this council, but other councils on this issue before on behalf of my neighborhood. I'm the neighborhood watch captain for Bonita and South Hermosa. And I wanted to bring it up again, just to bring it to your attention. It's a safety issue for us. It's the speed of the vehicle traffic on the northbound and southbound Hermosa. It doesn't matter what day it is. It doesn't matter if it's Sunday at 5 a.m. It can be travel time going to work or coming home from work. The speed, especially when you hit Ramona, and Jean, you probably know, can be very fast, whether it's going southbound or northbound. And there are a lot of children on that block, well, the mini blocks that are there. But particularly, it's important to us because of the church up at the corner and the park being so close that we are always trying to watch the speed of the vehicles, and we've not really been successful in getting them to slow down. We put up signs reminding people that perhaps their children might live there. It really hasn't worked. In years past, there were some safety studies performed by the city. Some included striping the area along the curbs like a landing strip. That didn't really work, and it cost the city money. So I don't necessarily know what the answer is this particular time, but I wanted to bring it to your attention again that it continues to be a problem, and we're concerned not only for our own children, pets, family members, but also those that partake of the park, the church, and come into the Hermosa area from both Esperanza, Mariposa, and Ramona. People tend to roll through the stops to be able to see. So again, just bring it to your attention as a safety issue with the speed of the vehicles. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. She's on Hermosa.
Good evening, I'm Barry Gold, 441 Ramona Avenue, and thank you, Mayor Arizmendi, for mentioning the Kiwanis Club
May 12th.
Chili Cook-Off. Okay. It is going to be on May 12th, Saturday, May 12th, 6 to 10 p.m. at the Recreation Center. There will be lots of food and lots of chili to taste. There'll be a DJ, lots of music, line dancing. This should be the best one they've ever had. They're making a lot of plans to make it very, very special. Those of you who've been in the past know how much fun it is. The proceeds will go to our Sierra Madre Middle School Creative Arts program right here in town. Starting next week, you'll be able to buy tickets at Savor the Flavor here in town on Baldwin. They'll also have forms that you could fill out if you'd like to enter your chili in the chili contest. So May 12th, Rec Center, tickets at Savor the Flavor. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to comment on an item not on the agenda? Okay, seeing none, we will move on to our presentation. Our presentation tonight is a proclamation in recognition of Armenian Genocide Remembrance Day. And I'd like to invite Councilmember Harabedian to the mic, and if he'd like to share a few words before I make the official presentation.
Absolutely. And just want to thank the mayor for giving this proclamation today, and for our assistant city clerk, Laura Aguilar, who helps every year with doing this. We've done this now, I think, six years or 5 years, I'm not sure how many. But we give a proclamation in recognition of Armenian genocide, usually around April. We're doing it a little bit earlier this year, but the day itself falls on April 24th, and that's really the Remembrance Day for the genocide. But the reason why we do it is not because it's a joyous thing, or this is something that the Armenian community or any community really enjoys. I don't think if you talk to folks from the Jewish community, they take any joy or pride of remembering the Holocaust. But we do it, and we've done it now for years upon years, because it's a reminder to everyone that those who have suffered injustice of any kind deserve justice, and that those in positions of power, whether it be a city council, a state legislature, or Congress, or even the president, should not take those positions lightly and should do everything they can to bring recognition for past injustices, such as the Armenian genocide. And, you know, we still live in a country, unfortunately, that has not officially recognized the Armenian genocide. And that is really what a lot of folks in the Armenian community, the Armenian American community, but also, you know, Armenians overseas, are really looking to, because Armenia looks to the United States, as most countries do, as being the, as Councilmember Kapocha said, the best country in the world, a beacon of hope, a democracy that most people look to. And you know, unfortunately, for various reasons, political and otherwise, the United States still has not officially recognized it. And the state of California has recognized it, the city of Sierra Madre and other cities have recognized it, and we continue to. And we will continue to do it until this country recognizes it, and also the perpetrators of the genocide, which would be modern-day Turkey, recognize it. And members of the Armenian National Committee of America are here, as they are every year. And I believe former Chairman Bogos Patatian is going to be accepting the declaration and the proclamation on behalf of ANC. I'd ask Bogos to name and recognize the other members that are here as well. But I would like to thank the members of the ANC for being here, as they are every year, and it's really our pleasure and our honor to do this. And I'd like to thank the mayor and hand it over to her to give the proclamation.
Thank you. And thank you, Councilmember Harabedian, for making sure that every year it is something that we recognize and take a moment to think about, we can think about the history. And I do want to share, unfortunately, and I hope some of you will be attending tomorrow night. Tomorrow night, the Armenian National Committee of American Western Region and the Japan America Society of Southern California is also going to do a tribute of sorts of the relations between Japan and Armenia. And although I am not Japanese, I was part of a delegation to Japan, and I was really hoping I could attend this, and I'm hoping to learn a little bit more of that history at some point. And I know some of you, I'm sure, will be in attendance tomorrow night. And before I invite you, sir, up to the podium, I do want to read the recognition, and I'll invite you to the podium again to share a little bit of who's with you, and if you would like to share a few words. Armenian Genocide Remembrance Day. Whereas from 1915 to 1923, 1.5 million Armenians lost their lives at the hands of the Ottoman Turkish Empire as part of a systematic program of genocide. And whereas the Armenian genocide is a tragic example of what fear and intolerance of others lead to, the city of Sierra Madre is dedicated to remembering the atrocities committed against the Armenian nation and all humanity. And whereas Armenian Genocide Remembrance Day commemorates this tragedy and helps people understand the need to eliminate fear and other hatred from our community. And whereas we remember the past, it is important that we dedicate ourselves to rebuilding a greater future by educating our community about the Armenian genocide and other crimes against humanity as a testament to mankind's indomitable spirit. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the City Council of the City of Sierra Madre celebrates the Armenian spirit and hereby pays tribute to and recognizes those who have suffered as a result of Armenian genocide. Approved this 20th day of March 2018 by the City Council of Sierra Madre, Mayor Rachel Arizmendi, Mayor Pro Tem Denise Del Mar, Council Members John Kapocha, Jean Goss, and John Harabedian. So if I can invite you to the podium, please.
We'll have everyone come up. Yeah, we'll do it. Okay. Maybe we'll do it up here more. Yeah.
This way all can see it, guys.
You're my height.
You're one of the, you're the important people.
Well, let me. So we have more people.
I'll hop in the swing and I'll just sneak in there.
Move back if you will.
Now you're really short.
I am anyway, so.
Thank you, sir. Good to see you, sir.
Thank you, Mayor Arizmendi. Esteemed members of the City Council of Sierra Madre, I really appreciate it. There's not much more eloquent words or profound appreciations than I could express more eloquently than Councilmember High-Rabedian already did. So I do appreciate those kind words. This is a very somber yet. I do want to amend one thing that you said, Councilmember High-Rabedian. As solemn and as heart-wrenching and as difficult as it is to celebrate the Armenian genocide for now 113 years, we also do celebrate it because the Turks failed. We are here, we are thriving, growing Armenian community, and the effort to exterminate the Armenian community from the face of the world for the entirety of history was a failed experiment. So in essence, we do celebrate the fact that we are here and we're thriving and that we're members of the community, respectable members of the community, and that, like Councilmember High-Rabedian, we give back to the communities that have so lovingly and exceptionally accepted us in their communities. So I do appreciate this resolution. You're very kind and gracious to do this every year. It means a lot to us. It means a lot to our Armenian National Committee Board of Directors. Many of them are here today. Our immediate past chairwoman, Shoaib Yepremian, is here. Greg is here. Emma is here. Nazaret is here. Turo is here. Rita is here. And Vicky Vache is here, and some other people are here from and from the Lernavar Gomide as well. So I appreciate this. We appreciate this. On a lighter note, I do want to also thank you for lending Councilmember High-Rabedian to us over the summer. We had a lovely, lovely trip to Armenia. He was part of our delegation, and it was an incredible trip. Not only did Councilmember High-Rabedian come, he also brought his beautiful wife and his equally beautiful son with him. And we learned that Johnny is a young man of many hidden talents, one of which is taking pictures. But that's a story for later. And I do appreciate this. It's a profound thing that you do every year to speak truth to power and to courageously stand up on the side of justice, even though our country, like John said, has not taken such a principled position. In that vein, I also want to invite you all. On April 21st is our commemoration ceremony in the city of Pasadena at the Armenian Genocide Monument. It's at 5 p.m. And before then, we all meet up at the Armenian Center and we actually march to the Armenian Genocide Monument. And this year will be exceptionally important because you won't be able to miss the museum, the monument, because it will have new freeway signs demarcating exactly where it is. And it'll be up in time, we hope, for the commemoration ceremony. So once again, thank you for this honor, and we hope you can make it out on the 21st. And we really, really do appreciate this.
Thank you.
Did I miss anything? Thank you.
Thank you.
Did I mention about the Easter egg hunt? So I have one thing that I didn't announce earlier. I just want to remind everybody that Saturday is the Easter egg hunt. The Firefighters Association puts that on. So that's at 10 o'clock, I believe. Is that right, City Manager?
That sounds correct.
Okay. So 10 o'clock at Memorial Park.
Okay, thank you. Okay, So we will move on to our action items. We have our consent calendar, and Mr. City Manager, if you'd like to take that.
Mayor, we have 3 items on consent tonight. Item A, adoption of Resolution 1812 of the City Council of the City of Sierra Madre approving certain demands. B, consideration of consultant services agreement, DePere Rosenblit Litvak LLP. C, second reading of ordinance number 1396, amending Title 17, Chapter 17.56 of the Sierra Madre Municipal Code, Nonconforming Uses Ordinance, and Chapter 17.82 of the Sierra Madre Municipal Code, Historic Preservation Ordinance.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. Do you have any questions on any of the consent items presented?
I do have one. Just a question on the contract with DePere, Rosenblit, and Litvak. How long have they represented us for code enforcement?
I'm going to ask Director Gonzalez to answer that.
They've represented the city for about 10 years.
Okay. Have the rates changed in what they're proposing?
Since these are more or less evergreen contracts.
Oh, it is.
Yeah,
Okay.
and the last contract that we wanted to update all our contracts was executed in 2009.
Okay.
So have the rates changed since then? I would imagine they have.
The rates are explicitly listed in the contract, but is that different from what is in the previous contract?
I wouldn't know that.
Okay.
Would you like that information?
Well,
I was gonna have the same question. Just if they were proposing a rate increase, but you know, it's.
We're happy to move this to the next meeting.
Thank you. I'd appreciate it. I just think we really should know that.
I agree.
I'll say, I mean, they are reasonable rates. I mean,
Oh, they are?
they seem reasonable, and I don't think that they came to us a few years ago to ask for an increase, which we said no to. They look like the same rates as then, but it would be nice to get confirmation.
Moving into the next meeting, will it impede any operations, any concerns about?
I don't believe so, Mayor.
Okay. And the next meeting is.
Second one of April.
Is the 2nd of April.
If for discussion, will likely be the first meeting in May, as traditionally council will seat after the election. They'll seat the new council members.
But don't we still have a consent calendar?
We could put on consent. I'm saying if we want discussion.
I think it's good for consent.
Yeah, I'm okay with consent, yeah.
If the information is provided there.
If we'll get the information before that, and if any of us have a problem, then we can move it to the following meeting.
Fine.
That's agreement.
Okay.
Thank
That's
you.
it for me.
Any other questions on consent?
Nope, I had that same question.
Okay. Thank you again for coming. Okay, then I will go ahead and open up the consent calendar for public comment, if anyone would like to comment on any of these 3 items. Okay, seeing none, I'll bring it back to council for discussion.
I would move the consent items 1A and C.
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
I think that passes unanimously. So moving on to the first item of discussion, and it looks like we will have Acting Library Service Manager Jill Schofield to present on the Sierra Madre Public Library review of 2017 library services.
I don't think it's on. I'm not sure that the audio is on today. It was hard to hear you at the back.
Oh. Hello? Oh, it's not.
Anyway, good evening.
So you missed all of our words of wisdom?
No, I could hear, but it was hard work. I will get started anyway. Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, and City Council. I'm very pleased to be here to present a review of the library services in 2017 and moving forward into this year. As you can see from up here, our motto is Read, Discover, Connect. And I also think it's worthwhile to remember our overarching goal. The library is set up, public libraries are set up in California under the California Education Code. And this is what it says about a public library. It's a supplement to the formal system of free public education and a source of information and inspiration to persons of all ages, and a resource for continuing education and re-education beyond the years of formal education. So those are very lofty goals. Here we see our baby rhyme time, our youngest members, our teens, and I've pressed the wrong one. There we go. And here are our adult reading club members. So we try and reach all ages. We have had some major changes this year, as you well know. In March 2017, a year ago, the Library Facility Master Plan was presented to you, and this was a culmination of several years of reports and surveys. And of course, that led into some discussion on whether to move the library, forums, and finally the survey. So that's all been going on this past year. Another big change was at the beginning of 2017, we were actually a combined Library and Community Services Department. Then in July, when the Director of Library and Community Services departed, we were split back into Library Services and Community Services, each under a services manager. And then towards the end of the year, this was made a permanent change back. So that confusion has been going on too. In July, you as council, you eliminated late fees and DVD rental fees. And we can talk about that later if you like, but it's led to happy patrons and happy staff. So just a few statistics. These are measurements that libraries often take. Well, they're trying to move away into more outcome-based evaluations, but these are current statistics. Circulation is how many items we check out in a year, and you can see that it has actually gone up a little bit from 2016 to 2017, quite a bit. Our patron count, that's the door count, has also gone up. We have 48,000 items in our catalogue. We are open 47 hours per week. But remember, we can also be reached online. You can download books, get to your account, renew items 24/7 online. And we have about 11,000 library cards that are being created in the last 5 years. So our collection, and this is our physical collection, and remember that we do have a substantial online collection too. We added in 2017 6,000 items, and we actually removed what we call weeding, 7,700 items. And this is part of a plan to remove older items and to get the collection more modern, and to get rid of what we call shelf sitters, books that sit on a shelf just in case somebody might want to check them out. So we're trying to reduce the collection. We've had a few new collections that we've added, which have been very popular. Not a very good cover, but that's a book in Chinese. We added a Mandarin collection because the schools have Mandarin programs in Sierra Madre, and those apparently are circulating really well. We also updated our classics collection. People still read the classics, and they don't want to read them on Gutenberg. They want a physical item. So we've got a whole new set of Shakespeare and all sorts of other classics. And this is another collection that we've just started. They're called launch pads. These are sort of like iPads for kids with educational programs. And you have a picture here because you probably won't ever see one because they're so popular they're never on the shelf. So we've just started that collection. It's doing really well. Now we have a lot of programs that go on regularly. So I'm just going to highlight a few of our new programs that were introduced last year. We've had an essay contest for kids for some years. Last year we changed it to be a bookmark contest, and this was really popular. And here you can see, and I keep doing that. This is Christine Smart, who's our youth librarian, and will actually be your city librarian in a few months' time when I retire. And she is here with one of the winners of the bookmark contest, and I believe Mayor and the city manager were able to vote on those bookmarks at the time. So we're repeating that, and at the moment that the kids are actually filling out their bookmark contest now. It has to be in by the beginning of April. So that's underway. Those bookmarks were really hot items during the summer, and we had none left at the end of the summer. We have up here a Reading Buddies program. This was a new program. High school seniors were trained to help the elementary school kids during the summer reading. So they would sign up for about 20 minutes, and that kept their skills up during the summer when sometimes that tapers off. Very successful program. Lego Play Day. This is Maya. She's a Girl Scout, and for her project she arranged for the collection people to donate all their old Legos. She sanitized them all, buckets and buckets and buckets of them, and then set up this Lego Play Day, which was so successful that it continues every Friday. And then up at the top here we have Danielle, who is one of our library technicians part-time, and she's been helping out with the teens. And she has a nice core group of teens with whom she works. And here she is dressed as the Monopoly Man. They're playing board game Monopoly. So as well as the new youth programs, these were some of the very popular programs that we had in 2017. Stuffed Animals Sleepover. If you haven't heard about this, and if you have young kids, they bring a stuffed animal to the library. The animal stays overnight, and they get up to all sorts of tricks. And then in the morning, the kids come back and they see photographs and videos of what the animals have been up to overnight. And my thumbs are not very good here. And here we have the animals are building a tower out of cups. We also had tried a miniature golf. This was a really good program to get families together at the library, and that was very successful. Teen Candyland, the party, we had 45 teens attending this, and 45 setting up and 45 actually participating in the party. And this was based on the Candyland board game. One Book, One City. We've had this for several years now. In 2017, we chose Rise of the Rocket Girls. 2018, in February, we just finished, is In God We Trust, All Others Pay Cash. And that's a whole month of activities related to these particular books. Open house, and if you look very carefully at the top there, you might see the mayor.
I was trying to figure out if that was me.
That is you. So open house, and we're coming up for another one in April. This is a day when we just open up, and this year we're going to have some local authors come and talk. We're going to show off our technology. There's a magic show for the kids. The awards for the bookmarks will be presented. So it's a whole day of activities. And finally, the Sierra Madre Super Summer. This was a new program last year. We were working with the community services, and I don't know whether you participated, but you get a passport, and you would get that stamped at many places in town. If you went hiked a trail, if you visited any and bought something from one of our local stores, if you went to an activity in the park, the Shakespeare in the Park, the movies, if you went to the library for a program, and if you read, you would get a stamp. And then when your passport was full, you could exchange that for a rather cool prize. So that was very successful, and we will be repeating that in a similar fashion this year. The archives is a big part of what we do, and we are tasked with preserving the Sierra Madre historical archives. So on the left here is Debbie Henderson, our part-time archivist, and she also works at the school library, the elementary school library, so we have a nice connection there. And she's working with Marge, who is one of our volunteers. This is an interesting story. This photograph is of the 1960 Rose float, taken in the end of 1959. And we have a collection that we put out on Flickr, and somebody noticed it on Flickr and asked if they could use it in a newsletter. And apparently the stork, it's called Birds and the Bees, I think. So the stork on this rose float is actually down in San Diego on the roof of the parking lot of the Mary Birch, I have to forget that name, Mary Birch Hospital for Women and Newborns. So they were writing an article about the history of the stork, and they came across this photograph and asked our permission to use it. So that's interesting. And apparently one of the people in the photographs is Larry Bevington, who was a former city manager. We've also this year asked to give permission to join the Pasadena Digital History. This is a digital version of many organizations in the area are joining this. There's Huntington Library, Pasadena City Library, PCC Library, and I believe there are several other groups. And because of our interest in mountain history, we've applied and been accepted to submit our photos to that database. And we're also we're going to be sending them, we've just signed an agreement with the California Digital Library, and thence they will be appearing in the Digital Public Library of America. So this is the way we can get our digitized photographs out into the world, essentially. We work very closely with the Sierra Madre Historical Preservation Society, and on the right here you can see a flyer for a digital storytelling workshop. And everyone has a story, and if you came to Sierra Madre just a few years ago or a long time ago, you probably have some little stories about Sierra Madre. And we've been selected as one of 10 libraries in Southern California to participate in this digital storytelling workshop. It's 2 days in May, Friday and Saturday, so you do need to come to both days. But the storytelling workshop people will actually help you create a story. You'll digitize it yourself with their help. Then you will add photos, background information, and that will become part of the State Library collection and also part of our collection too. And I believe if you know of anybody who has a story to tell, please have them apply. You can contact me or Debbie in the library. All right, technology 2017. A lot has been going on this year with technology. A couple of years ago, you may remember that the library asked to become part of the, it's the CalREN. It's a fiber internet backbone which runs down California and joins all the academic institutions. And now they're trying to include the elementary schools and high schools and public libraries. It's running behind schedule, but we do have fiber now in the library, and we're just waiting for the city IT department to configure the new firewall. So we're really excited about that. It's going to be a huge jump in what we can offer in terms of internet access. We also applied this year for virtual reality equipment from the State Library, and the police came round and had a exciting time. Here's Lou on trying to navigate through the virtual world. We also we received 2 3D printers. This is an example of a 3D printer. And recently we also got a book scanning center. And here's Laurie, who's our technology librarian. and myself, and we're unpacking that new scanning center. So that will be out for the public sometime soon. Another big project we had this year was called STEAM for Adults. Last year, about a year ago, Megan, and she's our youth adult librarian, and she is in this other photograph here. And she and I'm the scientist, she's the wordsmith. We created a grant, pitched it to the state library, and were awarded $23,000 to provide science and technology programming for adults. Because we'd seen Christine doing this with the children, and we thought, why should kids have all the fun? So that's the title, and here's our STEAM program. Why should kids have all the fun? So we started we hired one of our great volunteers, and this is Shannon. And she's done a wonderful job. We've had DNA, we extracted DNA in January, and then we did coding with these cute little robots. And then we actually building robots, which is what they're doing in the photo here. And then we're going to be using the 3D printers. We're going to, that'll be April, so we'll be showing those off at the open house. And then May, we'll have a speaker from the Fractal Foundation. So fractals are mathematical patterns which occur in nature, and they're repeating patterns. So we're having this great speaker who's coming and will present a visual depiction of that. So we're very excited about all this technology that's going on. And it's stimulated a lot of conversation in the library. All right, the staff. I'm so proud of our staff. I really am. We have 4 full-time, 11 part-time. These are the staff that weren't featured anywhere else in this presentation. I come in excited every day because they come in excited, and they just get on with it. They just want to provide good customer service. And as you know, we work sometimes in a very small space, and nobody gets on anybody else's nerves. It's really amazing. I'm very, very proud of them all. They're wonderful staff to work with. And we also have some other wonderful people, our volunteers. We have about 10 to 15 adult volunteers who come in regularly. This is Penny, working, putting our newspapers out. She also helps updating our computers. We've lost 1 or 2 this year. Some have moved away, and we lost Fran Garbaccio, of course. She was a great supporter of the library and was in there every Monday helping us. We also offer opportunities for teens, and that used to be just during the summer, but recently we've had it year-round. So they work their equivalent of 1 full-time person, the number of hours they work. And it's probably over that because they probably don't record everything. Our other great group of volunteers are the Friends of the Library, and they were winner of the Wisteria Award 2017. And they put on these great events, as you know, wine and cuisine, tasting, the art fair, and book sales. And that money goes directly to the programs that we have and to a lot of our collection, all the DVDs, the music, all the media, that all comes from the Friends. And they work terribly hard. Great group of people. And this is another excellent group of people, our Library Board of Trustees. And these people are either on their second term or have committed to doing a second term. So they are really well versed in library law. A couple of years ago, they would go out 2 by 2 when we were discussing whether to outsource the library. They went out to many libraries in the Southland to get information. They're a really hardworking group and multi-talented, very, very important group of people. So all in all, with the staff and the Friends and the trustees, we couldn't be in better shape. So just a peek forward. Let me just add that one. We are having new library card designs, and they've just been sent off to the printer. The one on the left here, we actually commissioned from Kazu, who is a young adult graphic novelist and illustrator. So he we commissioned it from him, but he wouldn't accept any money, so he's actually donated it to us, and he's a very striking style. Bill Peet Jr. Gave us some of his father's work, Bill Peet. So we got a second type of library card, and then we took one from the archives. So this is very exciting. It's been 8 months or so in the works, but those should be ready for the open house. So you'll be able to buy a new library card. And just to remind you of what's coming up, the bookmark contest is ongoing now. The STEAM for adults, we're up to the 3D printers in April and fractals in May. Parenting workshop in April. Open house, April 14th. The digital storytelling workshop is in May. And then our Sierra Madre Super Summer will be starting in June. And the open house comes at the end of National Library Week, and this is their logo, which I thought was very appropriate. Libraries lead. And that is a summary of what we've been doing in 2017. And thank you, and I can answer any questions that you would like.
Thank you so much for your presentation, and sad to see you leave in a few months, but I know that we'll be in good hands. Do we have any questions for Acting Library Service Manager Schofield?
I do. I probably know the answer to this, but I'm just going to see. We're weeding books out. I'm really not excited about the idea of weeding books out, except I understand we have a limited space and you have new things coming into the collection all the time. So this is really being driven primarily by space issues, right?
Yes.
When we talk about what our library is capable of holding and what it's not.
Yes. And especially if we don't know what's going to happen in the near future for the library, but I'm sure it will include having lower bookcases and things like that.
Right.
So we will have to reduce.
And that's going to create a need for more weeding, not less. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay.
I have a comment or a question, but I really appreciate, well, first of all, great job in the presentation.
Good.
And I just liked how you started the presentation off with the mission of a public library, a supplement to the formal system, on and on. And just looking at the programs that our library has, it's just, to me, incredible that how the operation of the library is so consistent with the mission of libraries. Because often we think of libraries as a place to go check out books, but as you can see from the state education code, it's much, much more than that. And it looks to me that that's exactly what our library is doing in fulfillment of that vision. So I think it's just great.
It doesn't even mention books in that statement.
Yeah, right, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll just make a quick comment. One, echo Councilmember Capocha's good job comment. I think that the library really is much more than its footprint. I think it does outsize things, and either I or my wife, we're there on a weekly basis for Wednesday story time for the kids, and staff there is amazing. Mrs. Steffens, does a great job with the kids, and so we're always blown away just how well everything's run, how tidy it is, how happy people are there. So, as a user of it, I think it's just fantastic. And to Councilmember Goss's point, yeah, I mean, you don't want to see weeding out of books, but it is such a small library, and I think that's what we have to figure out. Can we get more space? What are we gonna do with those books? But
and they don't get thrown away.
Right.
They go to the book sale.
Exactly.
They find a home.
Right. Well, and look, no one should be buying books. You guys have a ton of great books there, and was just talking with my wife before this meeting. She said, "Why are you buying books? You should," because I do. I'll go on Amazon and I'll buy a book, and she said, "Why do you do that? Just go check out a book and return it a week or two later." And it's true, but I think more people should be checking out books. I think the adult book section it seems underused. It seems like not as many people are going in there and checking out the adult books as they should. But I don't know if it's just that's my anecdotal experience, but The children's room seems like it's very well utilized, though.
I think that's always the way around.
Yeah.
Do you have a big online customer base?
Yes, we do. We're part of a digital Southern California Digital Library Consortium with about 20 other libraries. So we purchase some books online and they purchase others, so we have a bigger pool to draw from. And it's becoming more and more popular. It's called Overdrive.
Yeah, I use it.
Yeah, and there's a new app for that called Libby. And yeah, I enjoy using it too.
So,
Madam Mayor, I do have one more comment.
Okay.
Go ahead. Didn't mean to interrupt. Yeah.
So I actually do use that application at times because I do everything on my book, on my Kindle, and I'm just always amazed at the selection that's on there. You can find anything on there, so you might want to try that out.
I got to use that. Yeah.
It's good.
And does Councilman Harabian, do you go to Children's Hour with your son, or you just go?
I do. So that's. Are you saying that's why I'm there? Yeah. I go with my son. Yeah.
Okay.
He's
'Cause
there.
You forgot to mention him. You said you and
Yeah.
your wife go.
My son is there as well.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. Thank you.
Yeah, I also want to comment on the choice of the books for the One Book, One City, because I participate, without going to the sessions with it, but I did read Rise of the Rocket Girls and recently In God We Trust, All Others Pay Cash. And I absolutely recommend that to everybody. It is absolutely hilarious. And I don't remember the author's name.
Gene Shepherd.
Yeah, I mean, he's just, his style of writing and his imagination is just off the charts on down-to-earth issues about his childhood and, going back to the city that he grew up in, later, and hanging out in a bar and drinking with the bartender. It's just hilarious. So,
Check it out.
yeah, highly recommend.
I too am very thankful that the late fees are eliminated. Last time I went in, I had to buy a new or get a new card and pay my late fees, and it came out to $45, and I paid for it. So thank you, and I'm glad as council we decided on that. But thank you for the presentation, and if you could please extend our appreciation also to the staff and the volunteers. I know we don't get to interact with them much. We see most of the trustees and also friends on throughout the year, and we don't always have the opportunity. So please extend my thank you.
I will.
I do know, yes.
Could I add one thing too?
Yes.
Jill, she never talks about herself. She's been in the position since July, and is almost an unimaginable thing we asked her to do is to step up and take an apartment that had just been put together and disassemble it and follow through with a bunch of new programs that hadn't been implemented yet, and do it during a time when we're trying to decide where the library is going, where it's at, and still do it while providing excellent customer service. So she's very humble. When she got her review back, her first comment was, Gabe, I think some of your compliments were over the top. And that's just how Jill operates. But she's done a fantastic job. And similarly, Rebecca, who had the same task when we took apart departments together and broke them apart. And I commented to our assistant city manager last week that she's just perfect for the city. We're very proud of the services we provide, and I'm glad Jill got to make the presentation tonight and Rebecca last week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's been a privilege.
I do want to make sure we open up for public comment too on this item if anyone would like to comment on the library presentation. Mr. Paris?
Hello, Michael Paris again, 465 East Laurel. It's such an honor to live in a small town with such a great library. I raised my son, who's almost 18, here, and he's been going to that library since he was very young. He started reading at the youngest age Dick and Jane books from the 1950s that I had saved from first, second, and third grade. Before he was in kindergarten, he was already reading. Today, he leaves LaSalle High School every day and walks. Where does he go? He's a senior in high school. He goes to the library. And a lot of times I'll get a text, Dad, can you pick me up? Where are you? I'm at the library. This is consistent with John Paris. It's incredible. What's also incredible is how he has had so much grace from late returns. There have been times where the bill would have been close to $50, and they have given him grace. And I told him, it's all coming out of your pocket. And he goes up there and brings it, and thank you so much. On a side note, it is a hot button item, but I think that the citizens of Sierra Madre should take a look at one of the few really great examples of mid-century architecture in town, somewhat of Western Ranch style of the library. And again, in my opinion, it is worth preserving and doing what's necessary to maintain the bulk of the property and the structure itself. But that's just my personal opinion. And but we really love the library, my family, the location, the building, everything about it, and the staff.
Thank you. Makes me wonder why I didn't get grace off of my late. Okay, so we have one more public comment. Ms. Alcorn.
Pat Alcorn. And I had the pleasure of attending when I was president of the Friends. I attended the trustees meeting every month for a couple of years. And I was always amazed at the number of people who went through the door count that they had. And I'm just blown away. Last year, 84,255 people in our tiny town went through the door of that library. That's amazing.
Thank you. Okay, seeing no other public comment, I think we had discussion. I don't know if you have any last thoughts on this item. Okay, seeing none, we will move on to the next item for discussion, which is a budget and expenditure review for fiscal year 2007 to 2008 through fiscal year 2017-2018, and Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. So we've received a number of questions from council about budgeted expenditures going back over a period of time. And there's kind of three ways you can look at your expenditures over time. You can go into the CAFR, the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, but when you're comparing 10 years ago, it makes it slightly difficult because GASB could issue new rules, GFOA or GAP principles could be applied differently. For us, we weren't even doing a CAFR 10 years ago. We were doing basic financial statements, so you're comparing things that are similar but not exact. Another way to do it is just go fund to fund. So you can pick the general fund and say this is what it was in 2007. Here's what the general fund is in 2017. But as our assistant city manager will tell you, we have way too many funds. We've been collapsing them over time. We're collapsing more this year. So what was in the general fund in 2007 was not incorporating everything that was used for general fund expenditures. So we talked about the most fair way to do our review, and we decided to do budgeted expenditures because you kind of can't hide from what was expended, and even if it changes from the general fund to a special fund or restricted fund, it all comes out in the end. So we went back 10 years, and what we found is that over our total expenditure increase from 10 years ago to today is 0.96%. It's also worth noting in 2007, 2008, the budgeted deficit was $4.7 million. And in the most recent fiscal year, we had a budgeted surplus of almost $240,000. Another way we can look at this is the buying power of your dollar. So say essentially inflation will increase the cost of goods and services, which effectively decreases the value of your dollar. So in 2007 $1 is now $1.18. So if we take the expenditures in 2007-8 and we apply inflation to them, actual in real dollars, as we would call it, is $26.5 million. which would show we've actually reduced expenditures when adjusted for inflation by $2.6 million over a 10-year period, which is pretty impressive.
Could you repeat that, please?
Very loud.
Sometimes our mics aren't.
That's right. It's a bad night for that. Two other ways I tend to look at this when you're trying to look at expenditures over time is you pick a base year, and in this case we picked 10 years ago, 2007, 2008. And what this shows, if you use 2007 as your base year, 7 of the 10 budgeted years since 2007 have had expenditures which were total budget was less than the base year. And if you look at an annual, so you go from 2007 to 2008 to 2009, what you see here is that we've had a median decrease of 0.09%. But what caused the increases overall, even though we've been static over time, was an increase in public safety of more than $2 million. So in 2007, we had 3 FTEs, 3 full-time personnel in fire. This past year, we had 18. That's mostly in the paramedic program. So what we've had to do to offset that is have a non-public safety decrease in expenditures of $1.8 million. So we didn't add expenditures onto public safety without decreasing in other areas. And again, 5 of the 11 years show a budgeted decrease from the previous year. And in government, when the cost of goods and services go up every year, and our main driver is people and contracts, again, that's almost unheard of. In particular, the public safety is impressive because that will be your biggest driver of expenditures. So to be able to find offsets in what is effectively the other 49% of your budget, because public safety makes up 51%, and still operate at a relatively high level like we do, that shows how creative and competent a staff we have here.
What happened in 2012?
It could have been any one-time thing. So
Is that the windstorm expenses?
probably the windstorm. So.
And then you got new council members the next year, so things got a lot better.
I was actually going to say, look how it started going.
Yeah.
When were you guys put in?
That was it. That was the year.
So the other thing that we were asked is, well, is Sierra Madre a dealer? We're holding expenditures flat, but how do we compare with our peer governments? And as you can see, Sierra Madre has levied no special property tax. So we get just what the state minimum is. If you look at our neighbors, Pasadena has a library special tax, Monrovia, retirement tax for pension for CalPERS. Arcadia has a general obligation bond override, so when they issue debt, it actually goes onto the property tax and then they can retire it. Monrovia actually, in their total direct tax rate, does not include assessments. That's another $485. I just randomly grabbed some other cities. San Marino has a public safety parcel tax, San Gabriel a retirement tax, Alhambra a police facility assessment. So, the city,
Library tax.
yeah, it was not intended to be all-inclusive. I was just trying to show that in the San Gabriel Valley, we have one of the highest median incomes, one of the highest median house prices, and we are one of the lowest tax cities in the San Gabriel Valley. So effectively, when you look at total direct tax rate, every dollar you're taxed here, you'd be taxed $1.30 in Pasadena. So the yellow doesn't come out great, but what this is showing on the minimum tax that we get, so for every dollar in property tax a resident pays, 22 cents goes to Sierra Madre. It's actually 21.8, 21.9. The county, and that's 25%, actually gets a greater percentage of the tax dollars than the city does. The next three, 1917 and 9, are all education. 19% goes to Pasadena Unified. It's hard to read, but the Educational Augmentation Fund at 17% was passed in 2002 or 3, and it was designed to, per the bill, divert money from local governments into education. So over time, not even the tax dollars that we pay, most of them do not come here. So in summary, we're pretty good at government, and we'll take any questions that you have.
Wow.
When you ask a question, When you talked about Pasadena being at $1.30 compared to our dollar, that doesn't take into account sales tax, right?
So the total direct tax is just the direct tax that's levied
Right.
on properties.
So I think it's pretty safe to say that most people in Sierra Madre, like my family, are spending far more sales tax in Pasadena and Arcadia than we are in Sierra Madre, even though we do use businesses here in Sierra Madre. So doesn't that add to the dimension somewhat in terms of us being a lower tax city?
Well, it adds to the dimension of not being as diversified in our revenues. So 2.7% of our general fund revenue comes from sales tax. The average California city, it's 20% comes from sales tax. So what that means is we rely more on our property tax and the UUT than our neighboring cities. But even with that reliance, council has still never passed a special parcel tax like the majority of the cities that have greater taxing resources such as sales tax.
What I was getting at is that, yeah, I agree, I take that point. I think we all know that. But we still pay sales tax in Pasadena if we live in Sierra Madre, if we go down to Best Buy or any one of a number of businesses down there. So in reality, somebody's getting sales tax that we're paying. It's just not us.
Right, that's correct.
Well, you make a good point. Shop local.
Yes.
Well, for as much as you can.
Yeah,
Sure, of course.
You know, just another comment about the sales tax problem. So, yeah, you know, we go spend our money and contribute to the municipal health of Pasadena and Arcadia. But look at the trade-off. I mean, we don't have the traffic. We don't have the crowds. We have our nice little charming, quaint downtown that you can go and meet your friends and talk to. And I think spending money out of town is a small price to pay to preserve what we have here, which keeps our town in just a nice, tight little community without the massive Walmarts, Kmarts, Rusnacks, all that stuff, you know? So I think Sierra Madre, as a taxpayer, I feel I get an incredible bargain for living in the best city in the San Gabriel Valley, and actually it's pretty cheap, except for the high cost of property. But, you know, I've lived here 35 years. I don't have that same problem that some of you have, you know.
So I do think looking at what you presented goes against the argument that we hear so often that government is wasting the money, that we're not being efficient, that all we do is spend, spend, spend. And when you look at the numbers, I think we all have, and including the staff and our city manager, have done an excellent job in running a very efficient government. And perhaps others should take note and do as we do.
Do you have any questions for Mr. City Manager? And our microphones are on now. I hope that folks at home were able to hear that presentation because there were just such alarming numbers. But any other questions for Mr. City Manager before I open it up for public comment?
I guess the only one that I have is the breakdown of the property tax, 25 to county, 22 to us, et cetera. What's the legal underpinning that dictates that? So is it a state law? Is it a county law? I mean, this might be a better question for me to look up or for our city manager if she knows. But I mean, how, if we wanted to change that, how could we do that? Would we go to the state? Would we go to the county?
So
give us a bigger chunk of our money.
You would go to the voters, right? That's a representation of parcel tax that have been levied by certain levels of government. So if the county, for example, passes a parcel tax for stormwater capture, then their percentage of the total dollar will go up and our percentage will go down. It doesn't mean our actual dollars go down, just the percentage of dollars that are collected will be reduced. So what we're showing is that for local control that we talk about, we don't control the majority or even the most amount of property tax dollars that are collected here. Another agency of government does. And very close behind what we control is a school district. So what we're trying to show is the property taxes here not only are lower than elsewhere, but the property tax, when you get your bill, most of that is not staying here. 78% of it is leaving the city.
But I guess, but to follow up on that, if we went to the voters and tried to pass an assessment or a parcel tax, that would be different from how our property taxes would be allocated. So I guess my question is, who is dictating that the county gets 25% of our property tax?
That's state law, and every city has affected taxing entities within it. The county is always one of them. There are special districts for many cities, many jurisdictions, and then of course the state takes a chunk to help pay for the school system, and so that's state statute.
So
And it's not just Sierra Madre, it's every city.
included in that 14 is like mosquito abatement district.
Right,
There's
yeah.
all sorts of local taxing districts.
But I will say that some cities get a higher percentage than the not even 22 cents on the dollar that Sierra Madre gets. Many cities get more than a quarter.
And how do they do that?
There's less.
It depends on when the city incorporated, what the base tax year was. That's a math question that I just can't answer for you.
Just sounds like there's less hands that are.
That's also
in that
part of
pie.
it, depending on how many affected taxing entities happen to fall within your jurisdiction.
I've also, I'll just make a comment about sales tax, because this is a big issue for us, because we only get 2.7% of our revenue in sales tax. Other cities get much, much more. But with the advent of online shopping, and now the state has figured out a way to impose on others to collect that tax. And the problem is that we don't get our share of that tax. All that money that is collected goes to the state. Normally, you know, we would get 1 cent on the, 9.5 cent property or sales tax now. If you spend the money here in town, you get 1 cent of that. If you buy something online, the state gets it. And, you know, how we got ripped off and how, you know, like the League of California Cities, why didn't they catch this when that was going on, to say that if you're going to collect the tax, you know where you're shipping that product, that municipality gets their fair share of that tax. And that went right past every city in California and got implemented without us. Because I got really excited. I remember calling Elaine saying, "Oh, this is great. We're going to get all the tax on that." She says, "No, John, you're not. We're not going to get that." You know?
Yeah.
So it's just, I'm just venting at some of the things that go on, you know, that we really should be more engaged on, but we're not, you know.
I do have one more question. So our surrounding cities that have put in those parcel taxes, they get 100% of that goes back to their city, or does the county take some of that as well?
So any parcel tax the voters pass locally would be considered part of the direct tax. So for libraries, for example, in Pasadena, they passed a specific tax for a library. The total tax is 1.30, whereas it's 1.0 here. And that 0.30 goes to library operation. Monrovia, it's for pension debt or for CalPERS, so 0.12 goes towards retiring pension debt.
But we wouldn't have to pay the county anything? That's what I'm
No,
trying to
anything
ask.
we pass locally comes back to us.
Okay.
My question relates to how this information can, when we're going to get it online, and what other points of dissemination can we have for that?
On this report, we can certainly put it online and social media, our traditional outlets as well.
Okay, I think it's important information to have at this point, and I was incorrect in what I've been saying of 0.86% increase in expenditures from 10 years ago. When you collapse all of the funds together, it's actually 0.98% of an increase, but that really is just such a shocking number to see over a 10-year period of time. So that was extremely helpful. Thank you for putting that together. I do want, again, to open up the mic for public comment, if anyone in the audience would like to speak on this item.
D. Alcorn on Grandview. I just want to say I'm impressed. That's really is very remarkable, because you know, you presented, I think, quite nicely that we really aren't this high-priced thing that's being touted, but the guy wouldn't come up to defend himself on the thing. I think it really is, bespeaks well for how it's been managed, and I think you all to be congratulated for such a nice job. I think it's really very well. I had another subject though, and I thought it was going to be, I was going to do it at the, where it was not a part of the agenda. So I misunderstood, so if you will bear with me, because I thought it was a budget type item. And it had to do with the some expenditures that we have going on. And one of them I see that before I spoke about the infrastructure, and I think that there's a plan in place that it seems to be addressing our expenditure, and there is a plan to upgrade our, or at least bring our infrastructure. Will you bear with me a little bit, because I thought this was part of the budget, okay? Anyway, I thought that was part of the structure that we are doing, increasing or fixing our infrastructure. The other thing, though, I'm concerned about, and it is it's sort of the elephant, as it were, in the room, and that is the retirement system we have going, CalPERS. We've had some discussion about that, and I think there are some solutions that there probably are, if we really dug into it, that can help us out, because I think it's only going to get worse, because I don't see anything that's going to make it better. That's I see it in the action being taken, or anything that's in process right now that I'm aware of. So I suggest that be an item that really should be looked at, because I think it can be solved and not being because then I think it's one of those things we are kicking down the road. I say that kicking down the road because we really can't do anything, but I think there is things that can be done. And I think that it should be examined in more detail, look at what can be done. I've heard say, well, we really can't do too much because of this, but I think there are things that can be done, and it should be explored, and maybe have some other ideas from other citizens and others, but I think there's one item that we're being cooked down the road and should be addressed. I think, because I don't think it's being properly addressed as I see it right now, my understanding. Because I think it's going to get worse, and we're just going to come up and we're going to say, oh, well, we got a UUT or other kind of stuff. Anyway, that's my concern, and I don't see, from what we're at, I don't see them addressed. I'd like to see that done. Thank you.
And so thank you, Mr. Alcorn, for sharing that. I'll respond to both of those items just just briefly, but one is in terms of the infrastructure, there has been an increase 3 times of investment in the infrastructure over the last year, so it's up to $990,000. We've been able to do that is when we refinance the bond, there's a $1.3 million savings there, so we're able to invest in that manner. Also, the water plan is in place, so we know we need to address that. So that's the first one. The second is, yes, we have been in discussion about ways to address the pension. Will it be solved right away? No. However, there are several plans in place, and I think that's going to come up on our discussion in May or June. And so I invite you to come to that, and we can talk offline about some of those possible options.
I would have been there yesterday, but I was on Friday or Saturday, but I was doing my volunteer work at Huck Finn, so I couldn't be.
Well, hopefully you pulled up
You'd
some
rather
big
go to
fish.
Huck Finn than go to State of the City?
It's a lot.
But you
I
know
think
what?
it's all worth-
We
it's a good
televise
option.
State of the City so you can watch it. So you can enjoy both.
Okay, so are there any other comments on the budget and expenditures review of the 10-year period? Okay, seeing none, I will bring it back to council. I know we were able to comment, but are there any other final thoughts, comments on this?
Nope,
Okay.
just keep up the good work.
So great, no, it's a great presentation. Thank you for that information. And I do remember when you were working on it with your 5 trillion cells on your Excel spreadsheet, but you were able to pull up some really great information in such a concise and summarized way. So, but I'm really anxious to see how we can get that online and make sure that information is shared out. Okay, so that was the last item on the agenda. Do we have any new items for future agendas?
I do. I would like to address the young lady Dana regarding the Hermosa safety. If we could bring that back, and maybe in concert talk about some of the ways that we can do some reducive speeding around town, because I know we've gotten several complaints from our residents, and I'd like to see how we can address those maybe.
So we can bring that back just because it's been brought up. I met with the chief and captain yesterday, and we're going to start U-turn patrol, speed patrol, stop sign patrol at targeted points throughout the week.
Okay.
Can I comment on that? Because I know what works, ticketing. How do I know that? I got 2 speeding tickets on Hermosa 1 week apart. Now, you might think I'm a little slow that I didn't get it the first time.
Obviously not, because you're getting 2 speeding
No,
tickets. You're not
no,
slow.
I got it the second time. I do not ever speed on Hermosa again. So.
Well, there you have it. Problem solved. But
Change
yes,
of behavior, that was the goal, right, Chief? Yes.
And if we could please let the woman know that we are going to be bringing it back.
Yeah, Chief was outside talking with her for about 30 minutes, I think.
Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Right, all in favor? Aye. Thank
Aye.
you so much, everyone.